Hi, I'm Ewan Mitchell, and this is Freeze Frame with British Esquire. Scene 1. Vhagar is chasing Lucerys on Dragonback over the skies of Storm's End.
No!
And he's just lost control.
No! Don't! Serve me, Egon! No! Go right up, Egon!
Elliot Greeholt was like one of the wisest kids that I've ever met, under 16. Like, it was apparent the amount of work that he did off of set was huge, because when he was on it, he was just the coolest cat. And I'd often go to him and say, "Did you like my performance in that take?" I was just seeking validation and reassurance from a 16-year-old kid. Oh, and he got away. Yeah, about that. That wasn't my fault. I think it's such an interesting relationship that these two characters have. You know, Lucerys was the one who took Aemond's eye from him at a very early age. He forgave the fact that Lucerys took his eye out. He just wasn't over the fact that he got away with it in that eye for an eye scene in episode 7. You know, what could have been resolved with simple words of apology was instead sidelined, and this hatred between these two characters was allowed to fester, and over time it grew and grew and grew throughout the years. I feel like when you move a problem aside, it often exacerbates the problem, and you know, by the time you readdress it, it's often gotten out of hand and you can't control that problem anymore. We did a few takes on that last look as well. There was one take where, you know, you kind of see the glimpse of that young Aemond, that vulnerability, but then slowly, gradually, his face hardens, and he's very much, this facade has kind of came up and he's kind of blocking out everything that just happened moments ago. You know, season 1, it very much saw this family's world balanced on this knife's edge, and all it was going to take was a push from either side to draw blood, and Aemond in this moment draws first blood. After this, there's no going back. And I just love to see that variation from Aemond as well. You see that different colour, you know, this entirely head to toe, this character dressed in black. He very much screams villain, and this look here, it definitely contradicts that theory. That maybe it's that little kid still underneath the surface. In this moment, Aemond has very much started the domino effect that will lead to the Dance of the Dragons. There will be retaliation from the black side, and you could say that Daemon is the person to shoot back first. He ultimately employs two people that he doesn't fully understand, blood and cheese. You know, he kind of puts his trust in these two people, and you see that at the beginning of, you see the fallout of this scene at the beginning of season 2. Blood and cheese, they ultimately, they maybe overcompensate, they definitely take it too far. I think that's also one of the most compelling things about this series. It's like, what was the first act of the Dance of the Dragons? Was it when Aemond killed Lucerys in Storm's End? Was it when Lucerys took Aemond's eye out? Was it when Jacaerys and Egon and Lucerys bullied Aemond relentlessly day in, day out? Was it when they brought out the pink dread? It could be all of these different things. You could trace it all back. Oh Lord, it's my nude scene. No, why did you throw this one on me? Aemond has just been caught by his brother Egon in the brothel, where he has been laying low with the madame, seeking counsel from a lady who is ultimately a little bit like his surrogate mother. She's the only person that he feels like he can go to.
Aemond the Fierce! You have come so far, and yet you still lie with your very first. What a fine, sweet thing. Did you her like a hound? Woo! Woo! Woo!
I love Tom's laugh in this.
As you can see, she's now very much occupied.
And it's that little look that I do. But it's that moment that you see that facade come up on Aemond's face. There's a line from Michael Mann's Heat, and Robert De Niro's character says, you know, never get attached to someone you're not prepared to walk out on in 30 seconds flat when you feel the heat round the corner. And that's the code that Robert De Niro's character uses that helps him in part maneuver his world without getting caught by the police. And similar to Aemond, he has a very strict code that is similar, that in part helps him to not get hurt like he did as a kid. In this moment, you'll see he's very easily able to walk out on this madame. It's like he recognizes that in this moment that he is caught completely vulnerable, belly up, the most vulnerable we'll probably ever see Aemond, and humiliated by his brother. And you see that code come into play. That face goes from, you know, hurt and neglect and bullied. I love working with Tom Glencarny, and I love his laugh in that scene as well. You know, very early on in the process of shooting season 1, we very much worked on that brotherly bond. And I feel like if you can keep those similar bonds that your character has on set, off of set too, I think it can pay off in tremendous dividends. And yeah, I love the spontaneity of Tom bouncing off each other. He keeps you on your toes and you learn a few moves in the process. You know, I remember reading the scenes for the first time, this scene in episode 3 and the scene in episode 2, and I did recognize, you know, there was a challenge here, a beautiful challenge, but also an opportunity to offer a very rare glimpse into Aemond's vulnerability that we've never really seen before. But we had a phenomenal intimacy coordinator in Vanessa Coffey, and the whole day you felt very protected. It wasn't a decision that we made lightly, you know, to have Aemond fully nude. We were talking about maybe Aemond would, you know, wrap himself in a blanket, or maybe he'd use his hands to cover himself, but we just didn't think that was as true to Aemond as we possibly could. You know, it goes against that code that I was talking about. And the whole point of Aemond is that he doesn't care about anyone. You know, he can walk into any room, be humiliated in it, and when he walks out, he still retains the power. I very much wanted to cultivate this, especially with my body, and I ate lots of chicken, I did lots of CrossFit, I did lots of boxing, and a lot of chicken, and I just very much wanted to cut the image of someone who, even without armor, is, you know, completely lethal. And just because he hasn't got that, he still doesn't care. Oh, here she is. Ain't she beautiful? It's cold. The plan has been hatched. Basically, Aemond was lying in wait just on the peripheries of Rook's Rest. Cole was to mobilise his troops and march on the castle, and Aemond was very much there to serve as air support in case another dragon from the rival team were to show. He was gonna answer in kind. And what you see here is the oldest dragon in Westeros, named after the old Valyrian god of war. You know, she's still alive for a reason.
Thank the gods! Dracarys!
I always feel so bad for the dragons. I always feel so bad for the Sunfire. Oh. They're just animals. Yeah, so it's a tricky one. I don't really want to answer whether or not Aemond always was intentionally gonna hurt Egon. It raises the question in this scene, in that moment just before he Dracarys, is that, you know, did Aemond see an opportunity to take 2 dragons out with 1 stone, or was Egon just in the way? He wasn't supposed to be there, he wasn't part of the plan, he was the variable in that situation. But there's an awful lot of evidence to support that what Aemond did was intentional. Egon used to bully Aemond relentlessly. He was very much the ringleader in a lot of Aemond's childhood torment. And I think, Aemond, he always felt like his brother was inferior. Although Aemond was the second son, he very much always thought himself as the first. Whilst Aemond was training with the sword and, studying with the Meisters, Egon was probably in some sleazy corner in Flea Bottom, squandering his inheritance. And so Aemond very much feels like Egon lacks the perseverance to be king. Maybe he saw an opportunity to take him off the board. But I don't want to answer it. Let's leave it up to debate. During those dragon shooting scenes, we're actually on the back of, effectively, this bucking bronco that is suspended 20, 30 foot up in the air. In the studios at Leavesden, we're surrounded by a mixture of green screen and the volume, which is this piece of technology that was made famous by Disney's Mandalorian. And it projects the environment around you. It utilizes this video game engine. And so as an actor, it gives you a little bit of something to react off. For this scene, we actually took the mechanical bucking bronco out of the studio, I think for the first time, and we placed it in Bourne Wood. And so I was suspended 30 foot up in the air. I could see the tree line around me. And as an actor, it just doesn't get better than that.
Aemond is the next in line. It must be him.
It's agreed, then.
Sorry, Mum. Get in my way. You're either with me or you're against me. And I love that instant shift as well. Aemond, he sat back for the majority of the scene, just remaining silent. He ultimately knows what the decision is going to be, what the inevitable choice of the successor of Egon will be. And he's very much sitting back. He's just waiting for all of these people to make their arguments and make their cases. I think a part of him is a little bit heartbroken that his mum doesn't really see him as a fit to sit the head of the council table. He's just sitting there and he's like, Mum, you're digging a hole, digging a grave for yourself. But yeah, I love that instant shift that he has. Being on one side of the table, he's very much served the war, but when he sits on the other side of the table, he's looking at all of these people now in a very different perspective. They all serve him now.
What is our standing in the Riverlands?
The banners of House
You remain silent. What the hell, Cole? It's our plan. This is what we wanted all along, right? I love working with Fabien Frankel. He's one of the best parts of the job. The first scene that I ever had in season 1 was our Red Keep training yard scene, and it was a little bit of a friendship test. There was one particular shot where he actually used the real Morning Star, and he had to swing it at my shield for a shot to ultimately shatter my shield. I just kept on saying to him, please don't hit my face. Next scene, Aemond is staring at the Iron Throne. He is now Prince Regent, and he's looking at his prize. This is actually my own theme tune. I didn't know this until the other day. Ramin Djawani, he actually wrote this bit of theme tune for me, and from what I remember, I remember noticing it at Storm's End in episode 10 of season 1, and I think I remember noticing it after Aemond and Egon are at the bottom of the steps after their fight in episode 9 of the Grand Sept, and it's just this eerie kind of music, and I really like it. It's like his little calling card.
Was it worth the price?
Yes, it was worth the price. I love this scene because although Aemond doesn't say a lot, you don't know what he is thinking. You do know that he is thinking. He's looking in awe of this Iron Throne. This, you know, this ultimate monolith made of swords that he's always dreamt of sitting on. Or maybe he hasn't dreamt of ever sitting on it. Maybe he knows that the person who sits the Iron Throne also becomes the most wanted man in the realm, and Aemond's got a pretty big target on his back already. And also anyone who ever seems to sit on it cuts themselves. Maybe Aemond doesn't want to cut himself. Yeah, scary Aemond. He's a big teddy bear, really. Well, you see, Aemond and Helena, even Egon, we all shared a world of hurt. We were very much, you know, the half of the family that was sidelined. You know, it was Rhaenyra who was to make, you know, who was named heir. And so Egon, Helena and Aemond, and even Daeron, we were kind of, you know, put on the back burner. Yeah, it's interesting, the relationship with Helena and Aemond. I don't want to spoil too much of it, but you see in this moment that maybe Aemond is starting to cotton on. He started to cotton on to this prophetic kind of power that she possesses. I think if we all listened to Helena, we might be in a better spot than where we are now.
You know very well I represented your father during the last years of his life, and I have been a counsellor to Egon.
Capably so.
I love Liv Cook's performance. Like, as Alicent, she can level you with her eyes.
You served the realm well. At a time of need. That need is ended. You are no longer obliged.
Burn. I think he just doesn't want his mum at work. You know, you want to win this war. Mum, let me do my job. It's interesting, this moment. It's everything that kind of Aemond has craved for when she touches his face. It's everything that he's always ever wanted from his mum. Growing up, he never really had that unconditional love that he always craved for. And so he had to find surrogates in other places. He found it in Vhagar, this older she-dragon, which I think is a nice parallel. He found it in the Madame. But are those things good enough? You know, talking about the code earlier, I think there's something interesting that maybe Alicent is the kryptonite to that code. I think maybe that's the only way that you can beat Aemond is with love. Ultimately, if a kid is not embraced by the village, they'll burn it down to feel its warmth. You know, kids need that unconditional love to develop a balanced view of themselves, and so instead he's gonna find validation and ultimately attention from other places through war. And I mean, who knows, maybe after Aemond wins this war for his mum, they'll be sat on a Dornish beach somewhere sipping on pina coladas.
Have the indignities of your childhood not yet sufficiently been avenged?
There's a little glimmer of like, maybe that kid is still underneath it all. Maybe there is, you know, some way to get through to Aemond, and maybe that way is through Alicent. That's what I find so compelling about Aemond, is that he covers it all up, but it's still underneath there. Thank you so much for watching, and you can catch House of the Dragon now.